All right, welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here. If you've ever found yourself stuck in a debate that literally went nowhere, or maybe you've really struggled to get your team on board with a new vision, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into Dale Carnegie's legendary strategies for persuasion. But here is the fascinating part. We're going to learn how to win people over without ever resorting to arguments, dominance, or manipulation. Our source material today is a direct breakdown of Part 3 from what is arguably the most iconic book ever written on human relations. Carnegie spent years, decades really, studying what actually moves human beings. And in this specific section, he hands us 12 incredibly counterintuitive principles for winning people to our way of thinking. It's really all about trading our natural knee-jerk impulses for highly effective psychology. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda. We're breaking Carnegie's 12 principles down into 4 main stages: disarming conflict, shifting perspective, guiding conversation, and driving action. And finally, we'll wrap up with 5 highly practical daily applications you can use right away. So, stage 1, disarming conflict. We're talking about avoiding arguments and admitting fault. Carnegie asks us for a massive paradigm shift right out of the gate. He realized that you literally have to treat an argument like a rattlesnake or an earthquake. Just avoid it entirely. Our natural instinct in a disagreement is to dig in our heels, right? To point a finger and say, "You're wrong." But Carnegie's principle completely flips this by simply saying, "I may be wrong. I frequently am. Let's examine the facts." You instantly lower their defenses. There is absolutely nothing they can fight back against when you've already admitted fallibility. I want you to really chew on this quote from Ben Franklin. Think about your last really heated argument, maybe at work or at home. Let's say you triumphed. You shot their argument full of holes. Well, how did they feel? Probably inferior, right? You hurt their pride. So did you really win if you irreparably damaged the relationship just for an empty victory? Carnegie says, no way. To see this proactive disarming in action, let's talk about Bruce Harvey down in Albuquerque. Bruce accidentally authorized full wages for an employee on sick leave. He knew his boss was going to completely explode. But instead of hiding it or trying to defend his actions, Bruce preemptively and emphatically admitted his fault to his boss. By beating his boss to the punch, he completely cleared the air of guilt, took away the boss's ammunition, and actually invited a forgiving response. So the crucial takeaway here is that our initial disarming conflict toolkit comes down to these 4 foundational rules. Avoid the argument entirely. Never bluntly tell someone they're wrong. If you're wrong, admit it quickly and enthusiastically. And always, always begin in a friendly way. Once we've done this, we are primed for the next phase of human interaction. Moving right along to stage 2, shifting the perspective through empathy and active listening. Now that we've successfully de-escalated the tension, we move from simply holding our fire to genuinely working to understand the other side of the table. Which brings up a really fascinating challenge. I want to ask you directly. How do you get someone to change their mind without ever telling them they're wrong? If you can't argue and you can't point out their flaws, how do you actually create a change in their mindset? Well, Henry Ford's secret to success perfectly answers that question. You have to step completely into the other person's shoes. You have to let them talk, let them express their ideas fully, and honestly, try to see the world exactly as they see it. To help us do this, Carnegie provides what he literally calls a magic phrase to stop arguments and create goodwill instantly. Just say, "I don't blame you one iota for feeling as you do. If I were you, I would undoubtedly feel just as you do." And here's the kicker. You can be 100% sincere when you say it. As Carnegie points out, if you had Al Capone's exact body, his mind, his environment, and his experiences, well, you would be exactly where he was. Let's quickly recap principles 6 through 9. To shift the perspective in your favor, you absolutely must let them do the talking. You have to let them feel like the conclusion is their own idea. Honestly, try to see their point of view and be deeply sympathetic to their ideas and desires. This kind of genuine empathy is the soil where true cooperation grows. All right, stage 3, guiding the conversation using Socrates and nobler motives. So once those defenses are down and empathy is firmly established, how do we ethically guide people over to our side? Well, we borrow a trick from the ancient gadfly of Athens himself. Socrates changed human thought not by arguing, but by securing a string of yes admissions. He'd ask these gentle questions that his opponents simply had to agree with. By the time he was done, they found themselves embracing a conclusion they would have bitterly fought against just minutes prior. Getting that immediate yes, yes response sets off a powerful psychological momentum.
To build on that momentum, keep in mind J. Pierpont Morgan's brilliant observation. People generally have two reasons for doing things: the real reason and the reason that sounds good. Deep down, we're all idealists at heart. Carnegie tells this great story of a disgruntled tenant who threatened to break his lease. The landlord didn't argue the legal contract. Instead, he appealed to the tenant's nobler motives, saying he believed the tenant was a man of his word. And guess what? The tenant, wanting to live up to that high expectation, ended up staying.
So guiding the conversation relies entirely on positive momentum. You align with them by securing a yes, and then you assign high expectations to them by appealing to their nobler motives. You aren't forcing them. You're just paving a very attractive path for them to walk down themselves.
And that brings us to stage 4, driving the action with showmanship and challenges. Okay, so you have agreement, you have empathy, you've guided their thought process. Now, how do we turn all this pleasant agreement into tangible physical action? Carnegie understood that in the age of television and movies, merely stating the truth is kind of boring. It just isn't enough anymore. You must use showmanship. One company didn't just state their rat poison worked, they set up a window display featuring 2 live crawling rats. That dramatization made their sales zoom to 5 times the normal rate. You've got to make your ideas visually and emotionally engaging.
But what if showmanship and all the other rules just aren't cutting it? When nothing else works, Principle 12 says, throw down a challenge. When Theodore Roosevelt was frightened and actually wanted to withdraw from running for governor of New York, Senator Platt didn't beg him. He challenged his spirit. He looked at him and asked, "Is the hero of San Juan Hill a coward?" That simple challenge stimulated Roosevelt's human desire to excel, and of course, he went on to become president.
And that completes our thematic journey through Carnegie's 12 rules for winning people to your way of thinking. To drive the action home, remember to dramatize your ideas so they really capture attention. And when you need that one final push, throw down a challenge to ignite the natural human desire to prove one's worth. Let's move to our final section, Stage 5, 5 Practical Daily Applications. This is all about putting Carnegie to work.
Let's see how this all builds into something highly actionable for you. Taking all this theory and turning it into practice, here is your real-world toolkit for tomorrow morning. First, if you mess up at work, beat your boss to the punch and loudly admit your fault before they even can. Second, when a partner or spouse is frustrated, stop defending yourself and just say, "If I were you, I'd feel the exact same way." Third, start your next difficult meeting by asking a question the room naturally has to say yes to. Fourth, when a client complains, do not interrupt, let them talk until they completely run out of steam. And fifth, if your team is feeling sluggish, throw down a friendly challenge to beat a specific record. As you digest these steps, I want to draw your attention to this truly powerful quote Carnegie featured from Herbert Spencer. The great aim of education is not knowledge, but action. Learning these 12 rules is a fun intellectual exercise, sure, but it's completely useless unless you actually step out and practice them in the laboratory of your everyday life.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought. The very next time you feel your temper rising and you're staring down a conflict, what are you going to do? Are you going to give in to your natural instinct and fight for a completely empty, ego-driven victory? Or will you embrace the Carnegie paradigm shift, tread softly, and truly win people to your way of thinking? The choice, and the influence that comes with it, is entirely yours.